On the night of November 5th, 1975, deep in the dark woods of Arizona, logger Travis Walton and his crew returned home after a long day's work. As their truck edged along a lonely forest road, a strange glowing disc hovered between the trees. Drawn by panic and curiosity, Walton stepped out to investigate. A blinding beam of light struck him, and in an instant he vanished. His friends fled terrified. Walton was gone. However, 5 days later, he was to return with a tale few could have imagined. Let's return to 1975 and a dark night in the woods, here on Things Visible and Invisible. Jennifer, the last time we spoke, we had a fascinating conversation about crop circles, and you did a lot to demystify, but also to excite our curiosity about what really might be behind them. Now, in your work as a filmmaker, you have also been involved in something which is, shall we say, equally mystifying, and that is the case of Travis Walton. There will be people watching this, Jennifer, who have no idea who Travis Walton is, so I think we better start at the beginning.
Well, anyone can Google Travis Walton. He's a very famous abductee in the UFO community. And if they want to know just quickly or briefly a little more about my film, it's called Travis, The True Story of Travis Walton. And they can go to, these days, YouTube. They can see it for free on YouTube, but if they have Amazon Prime, they can also watch it there. So Travis was a logger in 1975 with a group of 7 other loggers in the northeast corner of Arizona.
Right.
And working in the Sitgraves National Forest, which is the largest ponderosa pine forest in the world. It sits about 7,000 feet high on a ridge known as the Mogollon Ridge or the Mogollon Plateau, which stretches from parts of New Mexico through northern Arizona and up into Colorado. And they were doing what's called timber stand improvement, which is clearing underbrush in the forest. So if a lightning strike happens, say in August when it's super dry, it doesn't immediately have fuel to burn the entire forest down. It will, there'll be less for it to burn if they pull away, say, broken dead branches and small underbrush that's growing. So they try to preserve the taller trees that are standing, gather the underbrush, stack it into what they call slash piles or burn piles to be burned in the winter when there's snow on the ground. So logging contracts are given out to independent contractors who want to do this underbrush clearing. And that's what Travis was working on for about 3 or 4 years. He'd been working with his best friend, Mike Rogers.
And Jennifer, what year are we talking?
1975.
1975, okay.
Travis was 22 years old at the time. He had been working since he'd been probably about 17 or 18 years old, clearing underbrush with Mike Rogers. And the team is ready to leave the forest at the end of the day. And they're in a valley and they're driving up towards the top of the Mogollon Rim where there is a dirt road that they can then use to get down to where they lived in Snowflake. It's about a 40-minute drive, switchback trail back off the ridge line down to their little Mormon town where they lived. And as they're driving up towards the Mogollon Rim Ridge Road, they see this light in the canopy, the top of the trees as they're driving up towards the ridge, and they can't understand what it is. It's very bright, and they think it must be a small plane that's possibly crashed and is burning in the tops of the trees. And as they get up to it, they clearly see a clearing, and there is a 25-foot round disc sitting there about 15 feet off the ground. Travis gets out, runs up the hill right under it, wants to see it really close because he just assumes it's going to fly off in seconds, as they always usually do. And long story short, he gets hit by a beam of light that comes out of it, hits him, throws him back about 20 feet. The other guys in the crew are frightened to death. They think it's going to hit them next with a beam. They slam the door and drive away up to the top of the ridge, looking back the whole time, seeing this craft, thinking it's going to follow them. They get to the top of the ridge to try to get help if anybody is going by. But, this is a national forest. It's millions of acres up there and nobody lives up there. They get up there, they turn the truck around, and the crew boss, Mike Rogers, says, look, I'm responsible for his life. I got to go back and get him. You guys can wait here. I'll go back, pick up his body, and then we got to get him help. If he's dead, we got to report it. If he's alive, we got to get him to a hospital. So they're turning the truck around. It's now dark, and they're watching the craft below them, and they see the craft fly away. So they all jump back in the craft, and they all jump back in the truck to go back and get Travis. And when they get back there, he's gone.
So just pause, Jennifer. You're a great storyteller, as we know because of your films. But let's, before we get to what happened to Travis, I'm curious as to his colleagues, his workmates. What was their kind of reaction to this? Right, they were obviously thinking right about helping him, get him to a hospital, get him whatever. But now that he's gone, what's going through their minds?
Everything. Some of them are crying. Some of them are freaked out. Some of them didn't even want to get out of the truck. Some of them were hiding on the floorboards when they saw it. It's like everything you can imagine is going through their minds. And they realize that they have to go and report him missing. They don't know exactly how they're going to do it. Exactly. Some of them had actually had run-ins with the law before, like, they'd taken a car for a joyride, or they had, an early shoplifting thing of like some candy or something when they were 14, and they're afraid that they're going to get thrown back in jail. I mean, all these people, all these boys were Mormon, and some of them were even underage. One of them was only 17 at the time, and you're not allowed to work for the Forestry Service unless you're 18 or above. But a lot of these guys, they were doing this to help support their families. Some of them, their moms were single, and they had 3 or 4 brothers, and they were all trying to chip in, to make the family ends meet. So they were afraid to go to town and report him missing, and they knew the police weren't going to believe him. No. And in fact, this really did ruin most of their lives.
Really?
Yes. Oh, yes. Of course.
Okay.
They were accused of making the story up.
Okay. Well, before we get to that, because that's the fallout, Jennifer, let's just try and stick with the timeline. So what did they do? Did they go to the local sheriff or the local law enforcement officer and say, we think our friend Travis has been abducted by a UFO?
No. They just called the police. Kenny Peterson made the phone call and said, we've lost one of our crew today, and he's missing.
Right.
And the police show up and check him out to see, what's going on, what their story is. What do you mean you lost one of your crew? Like, this had never happened before. How do you lose somebody when you're all working together in the forest? And they tell Deputy Ellison, who shows up, that the whole UFO story. And the deputy is kind of like, okay. And he starts smelling around for marijuana. He starts looking to see if there's beer cans in the truck, right? And he demands that the whole crew go back up to look for him. And some of the boys start crying, and they're saying, no, it's dark. I got to get home. I've got a wife. I've got kids. I got to get home to my family. And I'm scared to death to go back up into the forest. And they were visibly shaken. So only 3 of the original crew members went back up that evening to look for Travis with Deputy Ellison.
And obviously they didn't find Travis.
Correct.
So at this point, were the law enforcement thinking this is a scam, or were they getting more concerned, thinking that maybe something serious had happened to Travis and that his work colleagues had somehow were covering up something much more nefarious?
All of the above, Seán. Everything you can imagine. They were accused of murdering him. And Travis was accused of making this story up as well. They have to go and report him missing, of course, to his mother. They have to then start a search. So for 5 days, different teams, about 10 teams of different people, about 10 each in each group, including Navajo search and rescue, police, whatnot, people on horseback, dogs, that had the ability to sniff out with Travis's clothing what he might smell like. Were combing the area. They even had helicopters looking for him, and they were looking for him in 4 states, because this is right near what they call the Four Corners region that includes New Mexico, Arizona, Colorado, and Utah.
Right.
So there was a 4-state APB out as well. Did he go? Did he flag up? Is he hiding out? Did he, hitchhike with a trucker somewhere or whatever, But have to keep in mind, the Mogollon Rim at 7,000 feet is 45 minutes from the closest town by truck, right, by car. So getting out of the Mogollon Rim area back to town at night in November, you'd freeze to death. I mean, the temperatures drop very quickly, up in that region in November, down to 25 degrees, 20 degrees, something like that. So, and it was already just about dark when he went missing. So it was a complex story.
So, Travis is still gone. The manhunt is underway. The authorities are suspicious about what's happened or what may have not happened. What's happening then back in home? What's happening with the family? What's happening with his workmates? Is everything just frozen while this manhunt is taking place?
No, all the loggers are required to join one of the search parties.
Right.
And when they do, the local sheriff that's with that group or a local deputy pushes one of the loggers against a tree someday, at one point during the search, and says, look, you better just come clean. Obviously, something happened to Travis. There was some altercation. There was an accident, something. He's dead, right? And you've buried him somewhere. And unless you come clean, you are liable just as well as the perpetrator of this crime. So you better just tell us the truth. And then we can all go home and get this over with. And finally, the logger said, look, if you don't believe us, give us a lie detection test. This is exactly what happened. So they did. They gave him lie detection tests. And basically, they all passed. Originally, the first lie detection test happened on a Sunday, and Travis was returned, I think, the following Monday night. So he was missing for 5 days. And all the loggers passed. One of them, on the original test, one of the loggers' test was incomplete because he didn't understand the process.
Okay.
And he'd had a slight criminal record before, and he was afraid they were going to throw him back in jail. So he unplugged everything and walked out, and it was an incomplete. He came back a few weeks later, took the test again once Travis was returned to prove his innocence. Obviously, he wasn't guilty of murdering Travis, but just because they were being attacked of hoaxing this event and nobody believed them and nobody believed they passed the lie detection test, he took it again and passed. So they all passed the lie detection test. And by the way, Paramount Pictures did make a film about this. It's called Fire in the Sky, but they fictionalized a lot of the story. They made it much scarier than it really was, but it was such an incredible story. They did make a film out of it. And Tracy Torme was the director of that, and that was released in 1993.
To be honest, your telling of it, Jennifer, I don't think we need much fictionalization. It's a gripping tale as it is. Now we've got to the point the manhunts are underway, and then suddenly, like Lazarus or something, Travis comes back. Now talk to me about that moment when he come back. Did he just walk into his hometown again, or what happened?
No, what happens is he was dropped off alongside of a road called Route 260 in the town closest to where this event took place. So it took place in Heber, Arizona, and the major road there, 260, is the road the loggers would take to get to the Mogollon Rim every day, and then they would peel off onto a dirt road and take a 45-minute switchback up to the top of the rim from Heber. So they dropped him off about a half a mile from the small little town of Heber, where he woke up on the side of the road, saw a light around him, and he looked up and realized it was the same craft that he had seen in the forest, dropped him off. He was half on the road, half off the road on the gravel sideways, lying on the road. And it was cold. I mean, he was immediately freezing. He had just a jean jacket on. He walked downhill because he was exhausted, lost about 10 pounds worth of weight, and was, really like dehydrated, and went to a phone booth, picked up the phone booth and didn't have a dime to his name. And in those days, you got an operator. And he asked the operator to make a collect call for him to his brother, to his sister and brother-in-law who lived closest to Heber. And the operator stayed on the phone because she recognized his voice, because she knew they'd been looking for him for 10 days, right? And she stayed, or 5 days. She stayed on the phone, listened to the phone call, and then called Sheriff Gillespie and said, Travis is back. He just made a phone call from a phone booth in Heber.
And presumably they went charging off to Heber to find him.
Well, his family picked him up before the police got there to swipe for fingerprints, but they did find his fingerprints in the phone booth. And of course, there's a testimony of the operator that she listened in on the call, which is totally illegal to do, but she did it anyway.
So what happened next then, Jennifer? Did he meet with the authorities and start to explain what had happened to him, or what happened next?
It was pretty traumatic for Travis. He was experiencing what we would call severe post-traumatic stress.
Right.
When his brother picked him up in the base of he had collapsed in the phone booth. And when his brother tried to open the door, which folded in just like your phone booths do in the UK, he went into a panic attack. And his brother had to calm him down, get him in the car, and try to drive him home and try to explain to Travis that Travis had been missing for 5 days. Travis had no idea 5 days had gone by, but he did have a 5-day growth of beard. And he was pretty freaked out. And his brother realized that he needed protection. So he immediately drove him down to Phoenix and tried to get him medical evaluations. And he didn't want to turn him over to the police because nobody knew what the police were going to do with him. Because at that point, the police were pretty disgusted, right? And had thought these guys had murdered him, or they had a plot to somehow rig their work with the Forestry Service, which was not true. If you didn't finish the work, you didn't get paid, right? So it was very dramatic, and it kind of ruined in many ways Travis's lives and the lives of these other loggers. And that's really what I cover in my film.
Well, that's probably a nice point at which to pause, Jennifer, because believe it or not, we've come to the end of this second episode together. You've set it up wonderfully. You've certainly intrigued me on this story, which isn't as well known as it perhaps should be. But what you've also demonstrated, and I'm sure this is part of your film, is the very human element in this, when lives are suddenly upended by events which nobody can really make understanding of. And I meant it when I said the way you're telling it, we do not need Hollywood. This is such a fascinating and gripping tale. However, people will have to go and watch your film to find out what happened next and the fallout and the legacy of these events. So tell people where they can watch it and where they can find out more about you and the work that you're involved in.
So the film's website is called Travis Walton, that's Walton, Travis Walton, themovie.com. If they go there, they can learn about the film, learn about the making of the film, and also see information about the 50th anniversary of this incident we just celebrated, because it happened in 1975 on November 5th. So this past November 5th, we had a big conference here in Sedona, and people were, showed up to congratulate Travis, and he won several awards. He got an Integrity Award for staying true to his story. My other film website is called On Wings Productions. So that's ONWINGES Productions.com. They can learn about me and my filmmaking there. They can also go to SedonaMUFON.org and learn about programs I run here in Sedona.
Jennifer, thank you so much for coming on Things Visible and Invisible.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of Things Visible and Invisible. We're dedicated to uncovering phenomena that challenge our understanding of reality, from ancient enigmas and paranormal encounters to scientific anomalies and forgotten histories. If you enjoyed this journey into the mysterious and unexplained, please consider subscribing to our channel and hitting the notification bell to stay updated on future explorations. Have a personal experience or story that aligns with our investigations? We'd love to hear from you. Visit our website at tvi.show and reach out through our contact form. While we can't feature every submission, we review them all, and your story might be featured in an upcoming episode. To support our continued investigations, please consider becoming a Patreon supporter or channel member. Your contributions make these explorations possible and give you access to exclusive content, early releases, and monthly behind-the-scenes discussions with our team. Don't forget to check out our merch store. We've got everything from TVI-branded t-shirts and hoodies to stickers and coffee mugs, perfect for showing your support while keeping the mysteries close. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time as we continue to explore the things visible and invisible.